OMG. Oh, wow. So I did just hear about the video, little boy. Let's just be real, though. I think it would have been a difference. Had it happened at the school, it'd been different. But the fact that it happened off the campus and both of them were in a wrestle together. And I guess they say one pulled out a gun and shot the other one twice. Which, you know what, that sounds just familiar as what happened with that other situation with a little boy um, tried to tell the other little boy to move off the bleachers and that he can't sit there. I guess because it was after hours of the school timing and this was supposed to be practice, so that was supposed to be the reason why. Um, and the little boy uh, defended himself as well with so many other situations with young men of the ages of 16, especially in high school, given that I didn't even finish high school. So I know that school is tough. And I think it really is based off of the fact that people are trying so hard, especially in the African American community, to base everything off relationships and off of uh, being already young and being prepared for marriage and having kids. And I am just like, I think a lot of that anger is stimulated because, lust leads to its own consequence, which is the biblical word says. So it's like, at the same time, I think it builds off of where people place in their priorities. Because if you have young kids in school with all this animosity and all this anger and all this misplaced energy that just turns into hate and over aggressive rebellion, there definitely needs to signify that maybe, you know, relationship, youth, and love is all labels. Like I always say, you can't find justice in labels. You find justice in action. So justice cannot be just, well, you're young, you have your whole life ahead of you, or I'm old and you should respect me, or I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor, I'm an officer, I'm a judge. You got too many labels that are that's supposed to signify the systematic way the system is supposed to be ran. And I think that respect is due, but in order to give respect, you have to give respect. So even if a system is systematically already programmed a certain kind of way, you also want to remember that in order to have respect for anything, regardless of what it is, you have to show some respect. So even if the system is programmed a certain kind of way, and that's just how it's going to run, that program won't be successful. Eventually, the glitch will be of an even more absurd circumstance because in order to get respect, you have to give respect. You know what I mean? And there's so many golden rules to that. And so, you have to remember these golden rules, but you also have to remember that, if you're, like I said, like when you're speaking of a land and a people who come from a very unstable history, it may seem like it's gonna take time for us to um, find solutions and manage a way that we all could come to agreement with, we all could come to um, an understanding with. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, though, uh, yeah, that young people, uh, I think they do cross the line. I think they have a tendency to drag things out. Um, I think they have a tendency to carry weight around, and I think that some discipline does sort of help uh, de masculate some of that energy. Maybe a little guidance and direction. Um, you know, so like to realize that something's just dragging and dragging and dragging, and just pulling in a whole lot of energy, just going and going, and until someone actually steps in and says something. Because even with that, like, to be only 100 yards from the school onto the school property, or some kind of functioning given for the youth of that age, which 16 is still young enough to be youthful and lingering around playground areas in a school zone. So there was no adults there, obviously, because these young boys were fighting. So that indicates that there was no adult supervision, because you have to remember that even at 16 years old, that is right at the age where you start preparing to leave home and possibly start to find a wife. Because at 16 now you're looking, by 18 you're ready to get married and move out. So this is still a very tender age, and the age of um, sensitivity, and a lot of things can be calculated in all kinds of ways. So it's like, we can't just say, okay, well, you're a child, you know but your actions say I'm gonna charge you as an adult. But at the same time, you have adults who aren't, collecting the degree of fighting for the youth, possibly, going over and beyond, because it's work. It's work alone, raising a human being. Regardless, anytime you're raising something, that is a obstacle within itself, because you're actually having to teach this specimen of a human being to uh, understand a system, go to school, uh, provide, while at the same time doing it all in a way that doesn't conflict or step on anybody's toes. Because if kids bump into each other and that starts to turn deadly, there's a serious problem. Because kids are some of the most horse playing. They are some of the most horse playing ass, always want to play ass, always into sports ass, young ain't got no backbone ass, flexible, tender, always want to be PE, cheerleader. I mean, kids got way too much activity, way too much energy, to where if I bump into you, that could turn into something horribly wrong. I think we all need to get the motherfucker running in. Because goddamn it, like, if a child bumps into another child and that turns into a horrible situation, we're in big trouble. Because they are the energy of the earth. They're the source of the energy of everything. Like, they are the youth. I'm like, you can do it. Like, you can do backflip, turn around, do a cartwheel, splits, sit there and practice all week and be ready to play. I'm like, by Friday, and have another game that weekend and come back and have to practice. I'm like, and you mean to tell me I bump into you, and that's a problem? I will not get to run, and so should everybody else. Now that means the kids don't win Christ. Because if your actions make you, if the actions of the youth make the youth act like that, we need to lessen the activity. You might need to your energy might not need to be so heavily approved. Yeah, go sit your ass down somewhere in the old folk home and and don't move. Yeah, you sit down and like you in an old folk home and put on a gray wig and a cane and don't do shit. Don't do a damn thing. Don't bump into nobody. Don't walk around no one. Don't talk too damn loud. Don't express yourself. Don't have no emotions. Just sit there in the old folk home like you in the old folk home. That's how they ought to run them schools, like old folk homes. Like everybody put a gray wig on, uh, big old huge, worn baggy clothes and a cane, and walk around like how old folk do, holding your back and how they hold their back and oh good, uh, good morning. Y'all are way too old. Y'all way too young. We walking around here like some old folk. It's the safest thing, they say. It's the safest way. I'll be in class in about 20 minutes and I can walk over there. I'll be over there. Okay. And the teachers shouldn't be too ghetto. And they should conduct it like they working with old people. Yes, ma'am. Is there anything I get you today? Metamucil. Vitamins. Right, today we could trust that vitamins will be what you will be giving the children in the school. Flintstones. Flintstone vitamins. Multivitamins. Fiber cookies. Well, we can't put too much salt in it. Can't have milk, remember? Yo. I'm twice the age. I'm two times the age. Twice his age. I'm far from 15, 16. I'm not even in my 20s no more. Um, so I think we have to enjoy being in the sun though. People need to enjoy being outside and getting fresh air, like you know. And even at my age, sometimes I feel like, am I the adult or am I the child? Because it's like, I sort of feel like I could understand where even somebody at that age would be going through. Because a lot of abandonment has made me feel obligated to lash out or be so obnoxious in how I want to respond to things. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, where do you draw the line between adult and youth if even the adults are adults and still seem to be on the same mind frame to where if you feel some kind of abandonment, you lash out or you do the unthinkable. So if the adults and the children think the same way, where do you draw the line? Because the system is all about money and you know financing um, financing cases and financing the ability to sell people to the system or to the prison industry or to the jail. If that's how they finance business, if that's how you make money, then what are we doing as human beings, as people? What are we proving there? Because the minute I turn my back, or the minute I, you know, ain't looking somehow or another, someone is up to no good. Because people got things to do, you know? True enough, we don't have time to just sit there and babysit all day, but there is more to life than being locked away. You know, I mean, it's more to life than just being stuck out in the cold or feeling like, you know, a whole bunch of misplaced abandonment that leads to, unpleasant results. So I'm like, how do you represent that? How do you represent a place? How do you what do you represent? You represent school? Do you represent education? Do you represent um, sensitive, cooperative, and shape, submissive? Like, where do we place our true grit and our true muscle? Like, where is the strength of the what are we protecting in life? Are we protecting the right things? Are we putting a lot of muscle in the right areas? Because, you know, you want to be able to be outside and enjoy being there without feeling like, somehow, that's not the right thing to do. Right. So, um, that is just like giving a little comment in a way, because like, it's like so just starting to become a little bit more in a way where it's like it's starting to easily give to becoming harder than it really has to be, because a whole bunch of like to live in the South gives good weather. So the weather's usually good near about all year round. So you're outside a lot. You got to recognize that you represent the activity of literally the whole country, because you're always outside. You're always enjoying the weather in the sun. Everybody always has to be out in the sun enjoying the sunny weather. You know what I'm saying? So, you have to recognize that you are like the centerfold of everything. You know, it's all eyes on you. The sun is usually out most majority of the whole year. And I was watching another video the other day about a young man who also was sent up the road for, and this was, as they say, some young child, 15. He was holding a whole stack of money, but his profile stated he'd never been in trouble with the law, and he went to school. He was a good student in school, and he had a whole stack of money posted up next to his ear. And that attracted another young man. So they would want to say, but they considered him wrong and they profile him as the good little boy. But as in to speak on that situation, if you know, you know. Because it's like, to hold that kind of stack of money does not reek innocent. Doesn't reek innocent. There's definitely some layers. There's some silver linings in that one. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just not something young, little, innocent young boys are doing. Holding a whole stack, especially up to the ear. That's definitely giving a little something about something. As most, if human beings are strategizing in a way that might not really represent that life, if you don't really know about that life, then it would just be that you probably wouldn't have the intellect to be so brazen, right? So most people are putting it in the bank, and with a bow tie and a proper look, and ready off for school, and the big white hope. That's what most kids are, and they have their backpacks or their briefcases in their hand, and they're off and away to the land of the sharks and yeah, the industry. I mean, so I'm like, sometimes you have to recognize that, always saying that the person who initiated the lethal blow, it's just crazy. Like, they just don't hate it. Oh my goodness, like, hey, like, hey, that's wrong. Oh my goodness, this saying out of here, like, it's like, but you have to realize that, now it take two to tango, it take two to argue. Just because I bump into you is no reason for me to have to stop. If I don't say excuse me, or if I don't say, oh my bad, okay, you're young enough. Yeah, it's a playground. You gonna be bumping into everybody in a minute. Move on. Why would that get you so riled up that you would sit here and push this boy's buttons knowing he's already, you know, a little overly hyper for his, as a person. It's like, why would you want to sit there and just push people's buttons? Obviously, people need love and guidance and understanding to a straight path. But people would rather mark them and just, you know, stimulate fuel to the flame. It's a little thing I like to call H2O. It ain't a wastewater, but in this case, you know what I'm saying? Throw a little holy water on that flame, you know. Because I'm like, it shouldn't be. Like, the whole point of being a soldier, like I said before, is not to die. You don't ever do anything on a notation of thinking that because you want to stand for something, be a soldier for something, that's something you should. No, a soldier's supposed to survive. A soldier's supposed to come back and tell you what happened. A soldier's supposed to have his purple hearts. That's what a soldier's supposed to be. No, that's not what that's about. You know, that's not what being a soldier is about. Like, ain't nothing. You ain't never supposed to just, as far as what is dust to dust and all, that ain't that's it's never that serious. It's never that important. It ever is. But Florida. Florida used to be one of the it used to be just like New York, the Black Wall Street. Florida used to be the Black Wall Street. It used to have some of the wealthiest black entrepreneurs with some of the greatest land, the greatest fruit crops, the greatest plant crops and any, just like fruitful multitude of cows and cattle. The Black Wall Street. Florida used to be the Black Wall Street, just like New York, just like New York. And so now, as you can see, the development of Florida has developed beyond and way outside of those ledgers of it being the Black Wall Street. It's developed a whole 360 from where it used to be over the years. You know, so the development of education signifies that as well. So now they're, so it's like you definitely can see that, and everything, everything always can be different. Time has a way of developing things, and different logics and solutions are brought to the forefront, but it's like, at the same time, not for people to be feeling offended or abandoned or ignored, because it's just the means of surviving, the highlights of the jungle. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, at the same time, it's like, um, forgive people for they know not what they do. A lot of people do a lot of things even today. And in their innocence, they are forgiven. In the midst of their actions, the word says forgive 70 times fold. For my people have been lost due to the lack of guidance. So even though you can't say someone's not saved, yeah, it might not be your place to say that they're not saved, or, blah, 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 whatever. But at the same time, you have to realize that, something ain't right. So you can't really say they're not saved, but just be like, for, you know, forgive them for they know not what they do. You know? Like, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the wisdom and knowledge to know the difference.